Alrighty folks, I want to welcome everybody back to Yates Computer Tips and Reviews. So I wanted to start a little collection of videos on your operating system. This one's probably going to be primarily on the Windows operating system. Wanted to touch base on some of the old style. XP, ME, Vista. Those operating systems are old. They've been unsupported for a long time. They're not upgradable to a Windows 10 base. For that type of a system, you're going to have to, hopefully, you're already following best practices. You have all your backups, you have all your data, you have all your software saved, you have everything all secure, so in case you have to reinstall, you have all of that. You have all your product keys, you have everything you're going to need. Problem is, if you're running an older operating system such as that, you probably have old software that's probably not supported also. Business users should understand all of this. This is security concerns that I really did not touch on all my other videos about security. This gets into vulnerabilities. This gets into what you're hearing nowadays about the ransomwares, people taking over computers where they get messages they need to send Bitcoin and all this stuff to unlock their computers. They're encrypted, their screens are locked, or whatever the problems are. Some of these are simple viruses, Trojan horses type of an incident. I'll be doing some videos hopefully in the future that's more security and more things that you need to worry about. I've talked a little bit about that. Due to the end user, the person sitting at the computer, is generally how all these things happen. But you also have old software that makes your computer more acceptable to these incidents. To have this software go in your computer and affect your computer because of the older software you have in your computer. So that's why if you look into it, they always tell you make sure everything's updated. Update. But they don't give you any information. Again, this is one of the big beefs and big problems I have today with these people telling you to do stuff and they don't tell you the full information. So that's going to be a whole nother collection, but I wanted to touch on this because this has to do with the older operating systems also. Because if you're running the older operating systems, you have the same vulnerabilities and the same problems. Because you don't have the current updates, you don't have the current patches, and you're not secure. Plus, that gives time for these people to figure out how to get around those older protections that are there. What new modern programming and scripts and other things that they can run on that older computer that will make an effect. A lot of people go, no, that's not true, blah, 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 blah. Older computers, I haven't tried it with the newer versions, but you used to be able to load DOS games in on Windows. Run it in the DOS command. And you would play Pac-Man or something and you'd be all over the screen because the computers are so fast and they process so much more data that it's just so fast, it's just crazy. And it was funny to see. And then you could do a few tweaks in the system and stuff to fix that problem. But this is where we get back to the security standpoint of understanding this. Most home users probably don't understand this. They're probably still running ME, XP, Vista, Windows 7. These are all unsupported. Windows 8 is the next one, and 8.1 to be unsupported. Wanted to touch base on this. I haven't done an upgrade video yet as of filming this, but there really is no reason why you should be running Windows 7, Windows 8, or 8.1. Windows 10 is offered a free upgrade to those versions if you have those product keys. If you have a legal copy of that operating system, you should be able to upgrade without any problem. It's supported. It's somewhat easy to do. You go onto the Microsoft site, you download the tool onto the computer. All you basically have to run it, say I want to upgrade, I want to keep all my files, I want to keep everything, and you can upgrade. Second option is you can say I want to upgrade, but I don't want to keep my files, I don't want to keep my software, I don't want to do anything, because you may want to update your software. You may have software that's out there that's free that you are using, open source kind of software. There's a few good Office alternatives out there that you can be using. So if you're running something like that instead of a paid software where you installed it way back and you've done upgrades and patches and you've done all these other things, and you don't have any critical software, no expensive software, no video editing, no anything else, and you're a home user, you're probably not that kind of a home user that needs to know this. You probably already know this, because I would consider you a middle user. You already know you have your open source, you're not paying for software, you're hopefully running all your updates, you're keeping all your software updated. But what I have found is you think you're updated. You go on that software, you say search for updates, it tells you there is no update. Sometimes software is no longer updatable. There is some kind of platform change or something else where you can get to like a version 14.4 and then there's a version 16 or a version 15. You can't go from that 14.4 to 15. You literally have to use that installer to remove the old one to put the new one in to upgrade. So I wanted to touch on this because you may even think you're doing everything right, but there's that one little variable there. So I wanted to touch on that because that's the same thing with your OS. It stops being supported. That means you're not getting your updates, you're not getting your anything. And then you think, well, I can upgrade. Well, we had the same problem from Windows 7, Windows 8, 8.1, and up are upgradable because they've done a structure change on how the user accounts are saved. That's the big point. If you're running an older operating system, please research it to know where your user accounts are, where your data is per each user. It's not the same as Windows 7, Windows 8, 10, and hopefully 11 will be. The structure of the C drive tree forms are different. But you can still copy that data onto an external drive or whatever, upgrade your computer, log in, generate your account, and move over the files you need. So I wanted to specify that. That's one of the things with an upgrade from an older version. And if you're going from one of those older versions from 7 or older, you're going to have to buy a product key. Or you buy a new computer. Buy a used computer, whatever is in your platform or however you want to do it. You might buy an old used computer. Maybe that's what you need. You need to upgrade your hardware. You need to upgrade everything. Maybe you want to start running a solid state drive and you don't have serial connections. Maybe you have the old IED legacy stuff I've showed. These are platform steps that you have hardware that you can have software wise. So I wanted to touch on this because, like I said, this computer stuff is easy, but it's also hard. because it's all kind of the same thing. You have your platforms, you have your steps, and then you have basically where your steps end and another step starts. That's the way I would consider it. You have your level there between. I don't know the technical name for that, but in the steps they have the little platform and then there's more steps. And that's kind of the concept that how I see this. Because, yeah, the first risers, the steps go up to a certain point, but then you got to go over to the other step to go up. Sometimes you have that on your operating systems, you have that on your software, you have end of lives, you have different things. So I wanted to touch on that. But hopefully, if you're running Windows 7, Windows 8, 8.1, you have upgraded to Windows 10. Honestly, Windows 7 was a pretty good operating system. It ran really well. I can see why there would be probably still a lot of people at home running Windows 7. Windows 8, 8.1, I can't imagine too many people are still running that operating system. It was a really bad operating system. It had a lot of flaws. It wouldn't run certain software. It was incompatible with a lot of things. I found it crashed a lot. It was just a nasty piece of software. Other trend that they seem to have is every other year there's an OS that comes out that's pretty much garbage. It's no good. It's happened years back. We can go back ME 2000, XP, you know, they have their gaps where they're no good. So, wanted to touch base on that. Now you got Windows 11 coming out. Hearing all kinds of things already about it. Well, can't really touch base too much on it because it's still kind of all gossip and it's all still not officially released. Would I recommend anybody running out upgrading? No. If you're running Windows 10 or Windows 10 is working for you fine, end of life is 2025. So if you see this in 2022, you have 3 more years of life on that product. Because they tend to have a good one and a bad one. Maybe in 2 years that Windows 11 is gone and they're bringing out Windows 12 because 11 is no good. Because they're doing the same stuff on Windows 11 that they did on Windows 8 and 8.1. They're jamming things in you, operating system, changing settings around, changing a lot of stuff around. Again, I don't understand this. This is one of my big beefs with all you software developers. If you want to add a new thing, a new layout, a new look, let the person or the operator choose to enable it. Don't let us go and dig through your junk operating system where you hide things to enable it back to the look that we want. They're doing it again with Windows 11. So, want to specify that. And it's not only operating systems. There's other software I've worked with that they do the same thing that really annoys me. Oh, it has this new look, but oh, if you really don't like it, you can change it back to the classic. Why don't you give us the classic the way we like? Same thing with a certain internet email, browser, what else are they tied in with? I don't want to name them off bat. Where they came out with their brand new look on their email that you can get, and everybody hated it. It was junk. It was garbage. You had to go into the settings and say, no, change back to classic mode. And then they would flip you back because they did some fancy upgrade to their thing that they thought you would like. My beef is, stop thinking we would like what you like. Let us have the option to look at it, enable it. If we don't like it, go back. stop forcing it on us. They're doing it again on the OS. So I wanted to specify that now. I'll have a couple more videos going into a little bit of detail on a few operating systems coming out after this one. But this one I wanted to do was kind of an overlook, a first look, an explanation of what's going on. And I wanted to point out some of these things, because probably a couple of my comments on obviously Windows 11 are not going to be nice comments towards the operating system. I know it's still in development. I know they're talking about releasing it at the end of this year, towards the beginning of 2022. I really hope they see this. I don't know when I'm going to release it. It might be close to that time date. Not enough time for them to make these changes. But hopefully other software developers will think about what I'm saying. Hopefully other influencers and media creators see this and say the same thing. Because it gets tiring. You go out and buy software and they want to torque the look and change things on you that you don't want. Oh, but if you don't like it, just go in and set this. And then you have to dig through all their settings and try to find where they hit everything so that you can't go back and change it. And then you have to find that setting, change that setting, and then how many other settings do you have to go back and find and change to get it to work the way you want? We're not getting paid to fix their problem. Well, I might be. You come to me and pay me to fix their problem with their software that you already paid for. So, as a home user, business user, especially in a business environment, that's what really bothers me. I'm working on 100 computers, 200 computers, having to do the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again, because they decided to force a change on you instead of giving you the option to enable it. I know a lot of people are like, well, you can get software that manages your network and does this and do that. But what happens when you buy new computers that aren't on your network, that aren't integrated, aren't all set up, and you go in the first time and you got to do all of this? There's nothing like going to work on someone's computer, say, hey, I got to borrow your computer, I got to work on it, I got to do this and do this. How long is it going to take? A day, 2 days. How productive is your business at that point that you just lost that computer at that workstation for a day or 2 days because you have to go in and do something and then tweak everything else that thing adjusts and changes and allows and runs and puts permissions on and runs in the background, gaming stuff, all this capture stuff, all this other stuff that slows down that system that you don't need running. That you don't need that OS to know your email contacts, who you've been calling. There's things on there like your call records. Who's calling from a computer? I understand it if it's for a phone, that you have that operating system on that phone. But seriously? Go in and look at some of these privacy settings on Windows 10. Really look at them. These are some things that I scratch my head on and wonder, wow, why would they do this? And I'm sure they're going to do it with Windows 11. So, like I said, you have till 2025, the end of life for Windows 10. So, I wanted to bring these factors up. I wanted to explain. Because I know I haven't done an upgrade video. I know you can go online, you can look it up, do your homework. They'll tell you to go on there, get the Media Creator from Microsoft site. Basically, you download it and you run it. You can run it on the computer you're upgrading. A lot of people will tell you, Just go on there, make a USB, and do this and do that. If you're a business user, yes, that is probably the best way to do it. At work, that's what I have. So I can take that and move it, do multiple things without waiting for all the download. At home, there's no point in you going out buying a 16 gig USB, using it for that, for an upgrade. Or is there? That is also part of best practice. Because if you need to recover or you need to run a startup test, you need to run a boot up because you're having OS boot up problems or anything like that, that USB could come in handy. So, there's a whole other factor there. Goes back to best practices, goes back to security, goes back to a lot of things. So, that's one good factor about the Windows 10 that I did like. Some of the older operating systems would have CDs you could make and stuff like that. But CDs seem to always get lost, get scratched, get damaged, misplaced. USBs, for some reason, I don't have that big of a problem. Maybe they're small enough you can put so many in a box together that they're easier. I don't seem to have that big of a problem. CDs, I got tons of them right here with all kinds of stuff on it. When I go to try to find something, I can never find it. So, that's part of the factor I wanted to bring up. So, back to the OS sides, I brought up a lot of the security, a lot of the loading, and a lot of the other things that I think everybody should know. These are important. This isn't specifically to Windows 10, Windows 8, Windows 7, Windows 11, Windows 12, Windows 13, whatever versions they want to come up with next. These all fall into best practices. These all fall into security. These all fall into users. Security is important. I've touched on that. Logins, not using your admin account, all of these things and why. So, if you're following these best practices, this is another point I want to bring up. Making sure you actually remember your user admin account. Because if you do upgrade, it's going to ask you for that. It might be best to actually log into the admin account and run the software from your admin account. I believe the media creator does say and makes you log in as your admin account. So, I wanted to specify that. So, that's part of the fun of Windows, of your OS. Now, if you're running Linux or you're running Unix or you're running some other of those things, I don't have a lot of information on those. Linux, I've been out of Linux for 10 years. There's been a lot of changes to that. There's a lot of weird variables out there nowadays. I used to run a lot of them. I didn't like them because I couldn't run what I wanted to on them. Now there's some versions out there that actually run Windows software and Linux software and everything. I don't frown upon it. I don't any of that. Of course, that's based on the home user. That's based on your technical support, what you know how to do. But again, most of these best practices, most of these tips and hardware and all these things will still apply to you. Drivers, software, OS, all of these factors are all still apply. So I wanted to touch base on this because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are new to computers. How would I say? Non-Windows environments. Because when you buy a computer, usually that's what it comes with, so that's what you learn and that's what you deal with. So I wanted to touch on this video. Man, that AC is loud. Hopefully everybody can hear me with that AC running. It's really hot out here right now, as probably everywhere else in the country right now is pretty hot. So I wanted to do a little bit more detail, because I know people are not talking about this. I watch videos, I watch people, and I see what people are saying, and they're quick to point out a lot of the positives. I don't want to point out just the positives. I want to point out everything that you really need to know, because this is important. You know, now that everybody's working from home and everybody's doing all these things that they were doing, a lot of businesses did a few things. They changed a lot of things to accommodate this environment. It gets back into best practices and security and all of these type of things that come into play with this. I don't want to go into a lot of those details, because a lot of this stuff can be taken and be used in malicious and non-good ways. So I don't want to go too in depth on those. But if you're a home user and you may be doing some video calls, some Skype, some other things with people because of certain situations, people working at home now, that you're not the one working at home, but you're contacting someone else who is working at home. There's a lot of things and a lot of software out there that, to me, are questionable, and you want to be careful on. You want to make sure you have your security updated. You want to make sure you have all your patches updated. You want to make sure you're running the latest OS to make sure you are safe. So this is why I wanted to bring this up, because you are remotely connecting to someone else. So it's almost like plugging a USB stick into their computer and then plugging it into yours. You might end up transferring something you don't want to transfer. So depending on how the encryption is done and what kind of security is done from point A to point B, sometimes some of these things, they'll post a screenshot or a slide or something, and then you can download it to your computer to save it, or they'll send you something on there, or they'll send you an email through there. These are vulnerabilities still that I have not heard anybody talk about, because now you're receiving something directly from this person. Okay, this might be a person that's fully trusted, that you know, that you've trusted for years, that has done your finances or done whatever you do with this person. But you got to remember, you need to make sure your security and all of your updates and all of your stuff are up to date. Because if that person has something on their system, or it might not even be that system, it might be the system that they're connected to at the remote location of their job site. Because it might not really be that, it might have been his coworker that remoted in from over here that used that file and got it corrupted, and then he pulled that file to share with you. So I wanted to bring these factors up, because maybe that third-party person is running Windows Vista, running XP, running some older operating system. I know it's a scary factor. I don't want to scare a lot of people, but I thought it was something to elaborate on, to share. You know, it could be just as simple as he has a modern thing, but he opened an email he shouldn't have that infected his computer. And by the time that gets scanned, gets detected, gets taken care of, gets treated, it's already passed on. I've had retailers, resellers, warehouses that I used to deal with send me emails like, hey, caution, don't open any of our emails. Send me a text message, don't open any of our emails from our company. Please delete everything. We will let you know when it's safe. The last one was a distributor I was dealing with that someone in their facility opened the I Love You virus and infected their entire network. Okay, it was nice that they notified me and did all of that. But being an IT person, I went, how did they infect their whole network? They did not follow best standard practices. Someone had an admin account that went through everything. You don't do that. It's one of the things they're teaching. It's one of the things I've told you and I have videos on. Do not use an admin account. I think I have this scenario on that video. So, this is why I wanted to do this video, to make sure people are aware. Make sure you have your updates. Make sure you have all these things that I know I've touched on all these other videos. But this is primarily the OS side. It's important. So, I wanted to touch on that. I think I'll wrap this one up. Hopefully there's information on here everybody needs to know, everybody be happy with. They can leave your comments, let me know. Don't have anybody leaving any comments, so I'm assuming everybody's happy with it. So let me wrap this one up and I'll start the next one.